it's
It's
like,
all
come
crazy.
on, this is crazy.
It's all crazy. And the other one that's getting a lot of press is the real desperate housewife, who's actually a desperate mother trying to get her daughter into school. It's just, and
Right.
these cats are willing to pay more than it costs to go to the damn school to get
Just
in
to
it,
get in.
That's right.
just to get in. I mean, so if you gotta go through all that to get them in, then what happens then? Once they get in, then what? I mean, how long does this thing go?
Right.
I'd be interested to find out how it broke and how widespread it is, but I know that's going to be hard to get to the bottom of because this is probably going on
Forever.
they aren't. I'm sure they aren't the first.
Of course
You know,
not.
they're just and they probably aren't even the highest profile. They are right now, but I bet it'll uncover some other folks too because they had to hear it from somewhere.
Well, of course, and let's not forget that us now, while this is a big scam that everybody is following, there have been other ways people have been getting into universities without having to meet their qualifications for years. I mean, your parents have a name on a building, they donate. The only difference is that I guess they found some more legitimate way to do it. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I know people whose parents or whose families have given tons of money to schools to build buildings there, or they're just big sponsors or big donors, so they get into the school. Stuff like that's been happening for years, but this is just another level. Like, now you're messing with the sports teams, you're faking SAT scores, you're doing all this stuff. So this is just thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I'm gonna stop ranting
Yeah,
now.
you
Well-
sound a little heated.
I'm
But
very
rightfully so.
heated.
Well, here's the other thing. They also USC anyway. They fired their athletic director. They fired the water polo coach, and I guess they're looking at others as they are trying to figure out how this went wrong. Now, again, I know that there is a certain amount of plausible deniability as the farther you go up the ranks of some of these organizations, but this did not just start with these people. This has been going on for a long time. So I'm hoping that they're not just going to make these two the scapegoats, because I can tell you that they're in those meetings and homecoming and in all these highfalutin places. There's a whole lot of that going on. And there are a whole lot of kids walking around that campus and campuses across the country that the only reason that kid is at that school is because of something similar to this. And I don't care whether you're talking about HBCUs, whether you're talking about, Pac-10,
Right.
whatever you're talking about, this goes on
Everywhere.
day.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Absolutely.
But I agree with you. I think it's a shame that these kids were legitimately taking spots from other students.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about along racial lines. I'm just talking about period.
Period. White, black, Asian.
When you, for example, all of the athletic spots at any university, they're kind of coveted because they don't have a lot of them.
Right.
And they usually represent that you are sort of the best of the
Elite.
best in that particular sport. So, whether it's crew, like this one kid got in on a crew scholarship that couldn't even probably spell boat. Or
Right, can't swim.
Right.
Right.
Can't swim, never been near the water. Or basketball, whatever the sport was, and you haven't even played the sport at all. It's just, that's just so nervy.
That's crazy.
It's
Entitlement.
absolutely, it's
but
entitlement.
isn't that embarrassing? Like, you're talking about going to USC and playing on their basketball team. Like that's where Sanaa was. Like, that's huge. Like,
Sanaa.
yes, Sanaa Lathan, loving basketball.
Oh,
Get
boy.
it together. But like USC, like, that's a huge basketball program. So you thought you was just gonna walk on the court one day and just be like, "Hey, I have no stats and I have no highlight tape, but I'm here. I'm ready to play." Like, isn't that kind of embarrassing?
Well, but see, again, that's what, the athletic director, doesn't have any knowledge of the kids that are coming in on scholarships and sits down and says, let me look at the folks that we're paying for. You mean, I find it hard to believe that the checks and balances are so lax, particularly at a place like USC or Texas, where athletics are bigger than scholarships,
right,
than scholastic work in some cases, that no one sat down and say, okay, we got this girl, Amber, and let me see her reel. Let me see her play. No one found that odd.
That's why, you know, everybody's palms are getting greased. I mean, this is the one side of how things run in the capitalist society. You know, the money, was it cream, cash rules everything around me. At the end of the day, you know, these folks, the coach, the guy singer who is now singing, he is aptly named, evidently. But, you know, he has clearly, he can't do it by himself. So he's got to have some folks that are helping him out, and he's probably helping them out in a financial way.
Yeah, and you know, and then when you look at high profile folks like Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin, now they were 2 of 33 parents that were caught up in this nonsense. But you know, I just look at the number one, most of these people came from privilege of some type, meaning that they could, if you could afford to do what you said, Thinbad, if I can pay $100,000 just for you to be considered, and then that's more money than it costs for tuition every year. You come from privilege,
of course.
So, you know, it just goes. It just
as if privileged people already didn't have the advantage of getting into college, anyways.
Right.
But continue. Go ahead.
Right, and it certainly doesn't make kids who are struggling every day. You know, for example, I think about that kid that comes from a challenged situation, that's working 2 or 3 jobs, has about a 2.5, 2.8, something like that. They're trying to get into college, and they're doing all the right stuff, but you know, it's hard to leave right from work, go to work at McDonald's, and then do something else every day and Saturday and Sunday, and yet that kid is going to have to jump through all these hoops just to get somebody to give them a look.
Right.
And then I walk in and have the audacity to put my kid on the crew team that number one, may not even have the GPA or the scores, depending on what that situation was. And then you don't even play the sport. I mean, that's just irritating.
To me, this is, okay. Now, I might get crucified for this statement, but to me, the state of education in America is very similar to the issue of prison reform. Truly, it's unattainable and redundant because everybody wants to talk about how there's this national standard for education, and as long as you do X, Y, Z, you get to go to college and have a shot at getting a good job. But the playing field is not even. It's never been an even playing field. You're talking about bribes and stuff. It hasn't even been even from the jump. From going to elementary school on into high school, the playing field isn't even. So it's like, that's really my issue. My issue is that, you know, these people are walking on in, and you have people that come from places, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. You have people that come from places where the education is already not good. It's already below the national standard, and they still have the same dreams. They work their butts off. They do work multiple jobs because they have this dream of getting into college. And then it's like, they can do all that and they still can't go because somebody may have taken their spot. Or they see another way out. It's like, okay, well, you know, I don't have the best grades, but I'm a good tennis player. I'm a good football player. I'm a good soccer player. And so now, again, you're making all these sacrifices trying to better your craft, better your sport, so that you can get into these schools, and your spot is being taken by somebody who don't even play, has never picked up a ball, has never been in the water, has never done anything. And it's just, like you said, it's been going on for years. So not to be a downer, but like, why even report something like this? This has been going on forever. And it's like now all this fake outrage is out here when it's like, I mean, I feel that, like I said, I'm going to bring it back to prison reform. Everybody wants to talk about prison reform, but at the end of the day, the prison system in America is a business. As long as people are making money off it, it's not going to change. So why are we going to have all this fake outrage over it? The only way that we can really change it is if we get into the educational system, bring everybody up to at least the same level playing field, and then go from there. But that's not going to happen.
Sure. And you know, when you look at this point, they've indicted 9 coaches and 3 college exam proctors.
Yep.
So again, you know, not only do I think about the students that they help them with the test, but then I also wonder, did they not give students credit for correct answers just to make sure that this group got through? I mean, you know,
interesting,
because all kinds of things are possible when people are getting paid and they're doing things that are not appropriate. And you know, it just, you know, again, I just keep going back to what was the level of oversight that each one of these universities that have been involved in this, or they have personnel involved in this, you know, what was their level of oversight? I mean, how did they, you know, when they admit the students, did they look for certain things? Were there red flags and all kinds of other things? Or was it one of those things where, as the athletic coach, the applications don't go through the normal process? They come directly to the athletic center. I don't know. I'm just sort of throwing out some hypotheticals here.
Right.
But clearly when you have 33 folks, and that's just the tip of the
Actually, it's 50.
Yeah. I'm just saying, what in the indictment, you know, that's just the tip of the iceberg, because, you know, again, other people have been doing this for years, because even when we were in college 300 years ago, you know, they used to talk about these things were going on at certain universities. And for example, if your father, your mother worked in certain places, they were members of certain fraternities or social organizations, and you know, it's just a host of things. And even with the SAT, for years, the SAT, people had a secret in terms of how to take the test. Now, it wasn't cheating, but they did. You know, there were certain techniques and things that only a select group of people were privy to, and everyone else was just saying, "Oh, let me go out here and see if I can do it this way." When there was actually a method of taking that test, and which a lot of kids, depending on their access, their level of access, whether they didn't know about it. So I mean, it's just when you look at this whole thing, it's just one big mess.
It is.
One of the schools is here too. You know, in North Carolina, you got one of the schools, Wake Forest.
Oh yeah, Wake Forest,
right down the road. So they fired they put him on leave, but he's going to be fired. The volleyball coach, and he faces charges of conspiracy to commit racketeering. So a lot of the charges are, you know, of those 50 folks. I'm sure most of, you know, there's some that are the parents, and there's some that are some of these school officials too, who are on the hook now for. So you're talking Stanford University, Wake Forest, University of Texas, Georgetown. So it's all over. It's not just California, but these are some of these. This is obviously where these two are, and it's just, you know, you just look at it's like the parents want it more than the kids. The kids could care less about, you know, whether they go to school or not, you know, certainly not for any of the right reasons. And I just think of all the times, you know, you labor, as you said, and busy, you know, in racking your brains, going to SAT prep classes, getting up on Saturdays and spending all day in some church basement or some other, you know, school cafeteria with a bunch of other kids, just trying to make sure that you can just get something, you know, to be able to do the best that you can. And here these folks are like, I got a checkbook. I don't need a textbook. It's just crazy. It's crazy. These folks are just doing all that they, you know, it's the height of privilege and you know, exceptional treatment.
Right.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Whew, sheesh. Well, this is a mess, a hot mess.
Hot